The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 seconds, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists Martin Wishmayer from General Bytes,
Hello, what's up, guys?
Josh Shigala from Voltoro,
Bring it in.
Ben Ark from BTC IoT,
Hello all. Good evening.
Dan Eve, the Crypto Raptor,
Greetings and salutations.
and I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. Moving on to issue one. Issue one, Bitcoin heads for the biggest weekly loss since March after the steep rally. The price of Bitcoin was down Friday, putting it on pace for the deepest weekly loss in nearly a year, on the heels of its equally staggering rally. The world's largest cryptocurrency was trading down 9.2% at 46,477 as of 8:55 a.m. after falling as low as 44,180 in the early morning. Martine, what has happened to the price of Bitcoin?
We noticed a lot of inflow to exchanges. So this happened at a moment when Bitcoin just reached this $1 trillion market cap. So I think there were a lot of people that just decided to take some profit. On the other hand, I'm not too worried, even though the inflow to the exchanges was more than we've seen in 2017. But I think it's primarily retail investors that decided to take a little bit of profit. It's nothing to worry about if, all the news headlines are like, oh, major crash. But if you zoom out a little bit and you look on a monthly basis, we're still up more than 50%. So, what dip and crash are we actually talking about here? It just makes no sense. At the same time, you see a lot of institutional investors investing more and buying more Bitcoins. So the number of Bitcoins available to the rest of us is getting smaller and lower and lower. The Bitcoin institutional investors in Bitcoin had 8 point something early low 8.3% of all Bitcoins mined, and now you see that it's almost 9%. So it's the big whales and the institutions getting more Bitcoin, and it's the weak hands that are shaken out and the retail investors. So my advice is just hold, sit back, and it will climb up again.
Ben Ark.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like when we had it looked like a dead cat bounce before the Elon Musk shilling, and then the incessant Michael Saylor shilling, and it seemed like that perfect storm of FOMO, which turned that like dead cat bounce into like I don't know, gave it a power up and gave a bit of a boost. It was more of a dead cat triple bounce or whatever. So it seemed to get a little bit more levity, which made us all think, oh, bull market. And now the prices has started dumping. It doesn't seem that much is budging it up to the upside, even though there has been some good news. And I would say on the whole, I don't know what it's like everywhere else, but in my little bubble, search bubble, the news cycle, yeah, you get the Bitcoin has crashed news, but I noticed that when you read the articles now, they're kind of meh, goes up, goes down. They're kind of getting used to these swings. They're not committing themselves to Bitcoin has crashed and been destroyed, because they've done that too many times in the past, and a few months later they're having to write a new article saying Bitcoin is hitting all-time highs. So I can imagine more downside. I feel pretty miserable about the price. So yeah, to me it was like an irrational kind of pump off the back of some perfect FOMO storm news, and now we're out of that, and it all feels a bit uncertain and doubtful, and I'm full of fear.
Dan Eve.
Well, I was obviously a little overconfident the other week when I think my prediction was 75k. But let's face it, it's not unheard of that it could have just popped to 75k. And I think like Ben made a good point about the fact that like the sensationalism of everything crashing and pumping is kind of it's starting to get neutered out a bit more, because yeah, they do have to come back and say, oh, it's absolutely pumped again. After having an article saying, "Oh, it's dropped," is it really a good asset? Blah blah blah. So that's the reason why they put it in there, to kind of get people, thinking, adding to the FUD, and then they've got to send another article out that goes, "Oh, okay, it's doing awesome." But at the end of the day, it needed to sell off. The chart was looking insane. And what I think is quite cool is how immune everyone seems to be, especially the long people have been in it a long time. That just this, from having swings that were like $5, which was a huge percentage, then it was like hundreds of bucks, which was a huge percentage, and now it's like 10K in a day or whatever. And it's like, nah. And I feel it's weird how the longer time goes on, the less I feel impacted by the swings. Like, back when it first started, it was huge when it would pop and drop. Now it's just, so you just got to hold them tight, and try and sell at the top, like when Ben said, which was 20, 20, 21, 21, 21, 21, 21.
I think the key to feeling it less is to have less and less every time. Josh Shigala.
It's an interesting time. I mean, most corrections happen either time or price, obviously, and sometimes both. So we'll see a correction in price, meaning it'll just dump down, or it'll correct in time where it just moves sideways for ages, and that's a correction after a long bull. And this time around, I think we're seeing a dump to correct for the massive gains, and people are obviously going to take profits. I mean, if you're not a hardcore Bitcoiner who's just diamond hands all the way to the top, and you're a rational trader, you'd be like, holy moly, I'm up 300%. I'm going to take some profits here, and you take some profits. We saw a hell of a lot of people dumping into gold and silver. And I had a feeling, okay, this looks like a top. And it's not like a top, because actually all it's going to do is correct a little bit. So it's correcting down and sideways. It'll be a bit longer until we start heading back up again. But I don't see this as the end of the bull market. It's a little hitch along the way. What's quite interesting is it correlates quite well with the wider stock markets. If you look at what's happening in the stock markets, or the NASDAQ, for instance, the exact same graph. It's like dump, a little bit up, dump down further. And I think the markets now are really, they're in a scary spot. So, and this correlation is really, really fascinating to me, that Bitcoin tends to sort of be with the market until it doesn't. If we saw the big drop at the start of the year, when was it? The start of like COVID, not the start, but during COVID, like right at the beginning, everything rallied, even though planes were being grounded and everything like that, and Bitcoin did as well. And then when the stock market had this sort of few days of full-on crash, Bitcoin crashed as well, as everyone tried to take profits from everywhere to cover any losses of money. And I think this might be happening again, where we are again correlated, because after that time, it did end up splitting apart. But then again, they just printed more money, stock market went up, the Fed and the plunge protection team were out in full force, buying up all the stocks, so that it looked healthy. But this correlation, this hook between the stock market and Bitcoin, I feel that it could only get tighter, especially when large institutions come in and they have Bitcoin on their balance sheets. That this correlation could be quite strong. So yeah, we'll see what happens. I really like Bitcoin being independent, and it will, in really hardcore cases where we do have dumps, it'll dump with, and then eventually it'll just separate out. Because there are only 21 million. There's literally infinite money. There's literally infinite fiat.
Cash at the Federal Reserve. There is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve.
Yes, what I like about the correlation is that this way I can lose money in Bitcoin and in the stock market at the same time.
It's just, yeah, it's amazing. I mean, it's really, important to keep your head on straight. I mean, literally, this is why we built Vaultoro. It's like a safe haven. Everyone's like, it's the new gold. Yeah, gold actually dumps as well in those times as well. So because in these large dumps, it's like, I need liquidity. I need liquidity. There's like something's dumping even worse than that. They just sell everything, put it into cash, sell everything. And of course, where gold and Bitcoin shines is long-term crashes. So once you start seeing inflation, that's where it shines, because there is only 21 million.
Moving on to the exit question. The price of Bitcoin this time next week, higher or lower? Martin.
Oh, difficult to predict. I hope higher, but I wouldn't be surprised if it will, drop a little bit. I'm not selling, so I'm definitely, and there's no need. This is not a good moment to sell, so I'll just wait.
Crypto Raptor. You're muted.
Sorry, I'm just doing some triangles, and the analysis says got to be careful after last week's 75k prediction. So I'm going to go 65k.
Ben Ark.
Nice.
Yeah, it's going to be pumping. It's going to be going back up because it just swings around about. So who knows? Elon will tweet something and we'll be back up.
Josh Shigala.
I think it'll be a correlation between ups and downs. We'll see it hit like go back up to 50, maybe 51. It'll swing back down to 46. It'll keep going between 51 and 46 for a while until it's like they're like shockwaves. When you see something dump or even go up, it's like it dumps and then does this. It's like, imagine an earthquake. It's the same thing. It's like boom. And that's the same when these shocks happen in the market. It's like boom, and you get these nice waves that start big and get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, and then they either choose their direction. Bitcoin, because there's only 21 million, will go smaller and smaller and then start heading back up. And there you have it, folks.
Don't put your retirement funds in an earthquake. And now the magical Bitcoin predictor ball. Here we go. Will the price of Bitcoin be higher this time next week? I think last week it wouldn't answer. Oh, on the line. Most likely. So there you have it. The price is going higher. The ball hath spoken. Moving on to it's Gates versus Musk as the world's richest men spar over Bitcoin. Bill Gates has been going on TV this week telling everyone that you shouldn't invest in Bitcoin unless you're as rich as Elon Musk. Meanwhile, Elon Musk continues to alternate between Dogecoin and Bitcoin. Whose side are you on? Gates or Musk? Ben Ark, choose a side.
These rich guys battling it out. They're just people, and they've got opinions. Bill Gates used to be quite fond of Bitcoin once upon a time, but now he's got a bee in his bonnet about the environmental issues with Bitcoin, which transactions do have a very large carbon footprint, but all that's being worked on. It's not like Bitcoin hashing power is a diesel engine and can only use diesel to run. It can use anything to run, and it does incentivize greener energy. And crikey, well, I mean, this is what it basically boils down to with Bill Gates, is the environmental stuff. But, our medium of exchange, our international medium of exchange beyond the reach of a single government is the petrol dollar. So, it's literally linked to oil production. So, I wouldn't feel too bad about Bitcoin's carbon footprint. And as transaction throughput through things like Taproot, when that gets activated, and Lightning Network and Liquid, transaction throughput increases, the concept of just a transaction being one person sending one value from one person to another, that'll seem very antiquated quite soon, because a transaction will contain a lot of economic movement. So it's kind of an old argument which he's falling back on. I'm not quite sure why, because before he was quite progressive when it came to Bitcoin, and there were some parts of it which he quite liked. Maybe it's just in response to Elon kind of pumping it. He feels like he's got a comment, so when he's interviewed, he makes a comment. So, but yeah, I think technologically wise, I think he still probably quite likes it, but he's just obviously reserved on the environmental stuff. But we'll keep working on that, and then hopefully in the future he'll like us again.
Bill Gates has got to upgrade his operating system. It's like he's still running Windows 95. He just hasn't thought this through. Dan Eve, the crypto raptor.
Well, I think that Bill Gates is obviously the foundation's done a lot, and yeah, he's very, very respected. I mean, some people hate him, some people respect him. Depends, on pretty much on his stance on vaccines at the moment. Almost, there's a lot of dividing factors. But ultimately, he's done some good in the world in terms of his charity work. And so is Elon too. At the end of the day, they've got lots of money. They could both be doing a lot more, a huge amount more. But at least Elon's pumping Bitcoin, and Bill Gates, who still lots of people do respect and stuff that aren't into Bitcoin, probably listen to it. So yeah, I definitely prefer Elon over Bill Gates. But there's from the energy side. There still have been a number of reports which have shown how Bitcoin mining takes advantage of the cheapest electricity, which is often oversupply. And I'm reading a lot into you've got all sorts of different types of batteries, like gravitational batteries now, and storing the ability to store excess supply when it's not in demand, and then storing it in uphill reservoirs, and then it slowly pumps downhill, or all sorts of other inventions, but to store the electricity. And Bitcoin at the moment is just there with miners taking advantage of that excess electricity and the price that comes with it. So I think, we will probably see a bit more, hopefully a bit more investment in green from Bitcoin companies, which will start to turn people, because that's what we haven't really seen, much of yet. If we see a big company coming out and saying, oh, we're carbon neutral and all that, and making a song and a dance of it, then maybe the sort of wider community will realize that, a lot of the supply is coming from green areas that have got oversupply.
Josh Shigala.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Elon's rather than and his team, rather than Bill. I think Bill's lost the plot. He's just I don't know, not a big fan anymore.
Oh, not a fan of Windows 95. Martine, your thoughts?
I think Bill Gates is just a bit sour. It's exactly 26 years ago to this year that he tried to embed the eCash, DigiCash wallet into the release of Windows 95. I know because we were DigiCash neighbors at the time in the Science Park in Amsterdam, and the deal fell through. And I think if the deal would have gone through, then Windows would still be relevant today, and they would own basically the financial industry. Unfortunately for them, the deal didn't go through. Now we have Bitcoin, and now it's Bill Gates moaning about electricity consumption, while it was Windows 95 screensavers using all the GPU power for decades. And now he's complaining about the energy that Bitcoin uses. Well, it's unfortunately this whole energy narrative we've seen come up recently. It was started with what was her name? This evil empire, like ECB head Lagarde. She was saying oh, Bitcoin has its funny business and it's not very mentally friendly. And now we see Yellen talking about how inefficient Bitcoin really is, while the next day the federal banking system goes down and no bank can transfer anything to another bank. So how efficient is that? So if I look at it, then I think Bitcoin is pretty efficient, and for what we get out of it, I think it's extremely efficient. It will always look for the cheapest energy, and in some countries there will be excess liquid natural gas that will otherwise be flared. In other countries it's excess hydropower, but with the current development of electricity prices and the fact that green energy nowadays is even cheaper than, you know, regular coal-based or oil-based electricity, then I think Bitcoin's got a bright future ahead, and Bill Gates is just being a bit sour. So yes, Elon or Bill Gates. For me, it's definitely Elon, even though he's a bit of a dick at times.
Exit question. It seemed like Bill Gates had been lapping Steve Jobs of late. All of his charity initiatives, all of his vaccine work, his work in Africa, all his other stuff he's been doing. But now he changes his mind on Bitcoin. Would Steve Jobs has done the same? Choose Jobs or Gates. Ben Ark.
Jobs was closed source, so he'd be like, he wouldn't like Bitcoin. He'd want to control it himself. By now, he'd probably have like Apple Coin. So yeah, no, not Jobs. Sorry, not Bill Gates. Yeah, Bill Gates.
Not Jobs. You have to choose Gates. Crypto Raptor. No, you're muted.
So I'd agree. Actually, I reckon. I don't think Jobs would have been into it. And I've a few thoughts coming to my head just then. Plot twist: what if Bill Gates was actually Satoshi? And now he's just like, you know, he's just trying to be really, he's so humble about it. He's just like, yeah, it's not that good.
Yeah, some of the code was kind of ugly. Yeah, I could see that. Josh Shigala, Gates or Jobs?
We all know that Windows was really a 32-bit extension on a graphical shell to a 16-bit patch to an 8-bit operating system, originally coded for a 4-bit microprocessor, which was written by a 2-bit company which can't stand 1 bit of competition. And well, it's kind of like the Bitcoin maximalists. They can't stand 1 bit of competition either. So I think it'll be Steve.
Throwing down 1 megabyte is all you'll ever need. Martin, did we get to you on that one?
I'm not a big Apple fan. I've worked with Apple-based companies in the past, and they, you know, for example, the file server went down, and the only indication you would have was the clock stopped ticking at midnight. So the server crashed at midnight. There was no log file because you don't need any. There was nothing. So I think I've never been excited about Apple products. I like it because they help my mother use the mobile internet. But if you do any serious business, no, you'll be using the Azure cloud. And even Apple is using the Microsoft Azure cloud for their Apple Cloud thing. So they can't even properly run their own cloud. So no, definitely Bill Gates.
You know it stopped because the clock stopped ticking after midnight. At least Apple has the option for a ticking clock.
Well, there was no, I disagree.
Sick burn.
No, there was log files on Windows, and actually the reason why the clock would stop is that everything was running in one process, and there was no proper multitasking on the Apple OS back then. So no,
I mean, OS 10 though is written on a Linux kernel. So you don't.
Yeah, they had to rewrite their entire operating system from scratch.
Yeah,
and they didn't rewrite it.
Something that Windows has never done.
But it still works, and it still runs the old solitaire. So yes. Okay, it's
never too late to rewrite Windows. We'd just like to ask everyone to give us a thumbs up. I don't think we remembered on the last one, but everyone gives us a thumbs up and a share. Subscribe if you haven't down below. This is all a user-supported show. There's no kind of like advertising or like big fancy company or anything. So
yeah, also when you hit the subscribe, I just got to tell folks out there, because subscribe is kind of broken nowadays. Subscribe is just this thing that yeah, I don't know if you've noticed, but if you hit subscribe, you don't actually see all the videos coming up from companies that you from YouTubers that you subscribe to. So the bell actually notifies you for every video. So if you do want to stay up to date on the latest news on the World Crypto Network, make sure to hit that little bell too.
I hope our bell works. I tried earlier and it didn't work. So we'll see. Also, check out the World Crypto Network audio podcast on Apple, iTunes, Spotify, and other places where you can get podcasts. Issue 3, MicroStrategy buys more than $1 billion worth of Bitcoin, adding to its massive holdings. On the same day, Square buys $170 million more in Bitcoin to boast its crypto holdings. Has this ever happened before? Do you remember ever a downturn where two large companies came in and tried to buy up the market? Will they be successful? Dan Eve.
I think there must be a group now where like the CEOs of a number of companies that are kind of interested have got together on like a Telegram or something like that, and they're like, should we do a little pump? Should we just, you buy some, we'll buy some, and then we'll do a little pump. We'll do a little pump, shall we? And they must be doing that. They must be kind of going, well, okay, you release this news now. But yeah, I think it's great that obviously companies are coming out in public and saying that, and actually, you know, putting their money where their mouth is. I think it's something politically correct. There's all sorts of, but yeah, I think it's good. Obviously, sometimes it shocks the shareholders, but the more companies we see doing this, the more others are going to come out. It's going to be that cascade. And I was just thinking earlier, what's going to be? So we've got KISS now, like, you know, or at least Gene Simmons is a Bitcoiner. So I'm interested to see what the next section of bands that's going to be, because of course there's going to be these little niches where people are going to compete with each other. The CEOs are going to compete with each other. The bands are going to be like, yeah, we're accepting Bitcoin. So I think that's coming soon. Like all the celebs getting involved, not just the CEOs and the business people. And yeah, we're going to see the floodgates opening, perhaps for the final run at the end of this year.
It's just funny to see how far we've gone, where in the past it would be my roommates would be freaking out and selling, and my brother would be buying their coins, and that's how the market used to work. But now these giant companies come in and start buying the coins to try to save the market. No longer just single people or large miners or anything. Josh Shigala, your thoughts on the excitement of large companies buying Bitcoin?
Yeah, I mean, so I sort of mentioned it a little bit before about the plunge protection team. And for those that don't know, this is part of the government that actually stops and buys stock when there's a massive dump in the markets to stop panic. And they freeze trading on certain assets or freeze markets altogether. Then you have the repo market, which isn't the people that go around repossessing your goods, but they're actually buying stock as well. So I'm looking forward to the time where governments start doing that to Bitcoin, because it's so closely tied with the stock market, because everyone's got this stuff on their balance sheets now that they're like, oh, Bitcoin's crashing, quick, buy some, equal it out. So as it dumps, the government just comes in with their printed fake money that they can print as much of as possible, and everything's pegged to that stupid shit in the market. So it's the ultimate tether, and they can just manipulate the price and including dump it down as well. So this is another reason for Bitcoin to be the number one in the world, because if certain countries choose Litecoin, for instance, or some other coin, governments will basically pump and dump that crap just to destroy them. I mean, they do it already with their own homegrown currencies, but because this stuff's limited, it's a little bit easier to do. And because fiat is unlimited, and they're the ones that print it, they can definitely control vast economies. So everyone will be jumping into Bitcoin so that they're part of the bigger picture. And if America and China are well invested in Bitcoin, and their companies are well invested in Bitcoin, they won't want to crush it. They'll want to stabilize it a little bit, but they'll want to crush other countries that are using different coins.
Imagine if a country like Nigeria made a mistake and switched to a Litecoin economy, but it was supposed to be a Bitcoin economy, but there was like a translation issue and it just went wrong. And then, they get crashed on just like that. That'd be horrible.
Yeah. Well, this is what happened when Bitcoin forked to Bitcoin Cash. Everyone, the whole community was like, which ticker symbol do we use? Do we use BCH or BCC? And of course, that's where BitConnect came from, because BCC was BitConnect's ticker symbol. So everyone just started buying BitConnect, thinking it was Bitcoin Cash. Suddenly, this weird, obscure scam coin came out of nowhere. It got its life of its own, of course, and then it ended terribly. But it had a strong run at scamming a hell of a lot of people in the meantime. But yeah, it was a mistake by the market, by people using the market, purely because the ticker symbol was BCC, which everyone thought was, oh, that's Bitcoin Cash.
Martine, will the market be saved by Uncle MicroStrategies and our good buddy Square, Jack Dorsey?
I think in the case of Square, it makes sense. If you look at their current investment, it totals roughly 5% of their cash or cash-like reserves. And I think this is a prudent or good investment. 5% is a good number that won't be too vulnerable, in case of market volatility. MicroStrategy is a different story. MicroStrategy didn't really make a lot of money in the past years. So they just became, from an enterprise software company, business intelligence software, they became like this huge Bitcoin bull. And I think this is a different story. I think he's doing great because, he basically got $1 billion now on notes, convertible notes. He's not paying anything for it. So he basically got $1 billion and he can use it to buy Bitcoin. So yeah, absolutely good. But what you'll see is it relating to the other point in this show is that the energy FUD will be used by governments to say that, oh, you bought Bitcoin, you have Bitcoin on your balance sheet. That means you won't be able to get your green targets or something like that. They'll use the energy FUD to prevent big corporations from buying cryptocurrency like Bitcoin. And I think this is we should fight that, and we should show that Bitcoin isn't that energy consuming as that they say it is, because at first they said, oh, it uses the same amount of energy as a village, then it was a city, then it was entire countries, then it's all of Europe. So it's been blown up in the media, and everybody who wants to discredit Bitcoin now uses this energy FUD argument. So I think it's something we have to watch out for, and we have to actively lobby against it by just providing the correct data. And I think miners should be also releasing data where they use their, where they get their energy from. So, from a company perspective, I think this is a really big trend. There will be more corporations investing into Bitcoin. I think having 5% of your balance sheet in crypto is a safe and sound bet. It's just the other way around. In my case, I have 95% of all my cash equivalents. I have them in Bitcoin, unlike Jack Dorsey. But I think we should be able to get more companies on board. I think this is helps them hedge.
Ben Ark, your thoughts?
I mean, prove it. Have we got access to their public keys? Can we see that they're not saying one thing and then dumping on the market? Because if I was investing that kind of money and I had shareholders and people who I was held to account by, then I would say one thing and do the other thing, and that's like Michael Saylor's job. I do like Michael Saylor. I like some of the stuff he says, but he could just be a great salesman, and he could just be defrauding all of his Bitcoiners. And one way in which they can prove that they do have the Bitcoin and they are in fact accumulating more Bitcoin is to publish their public keys, which I don't think is particularly a bad thing for them to do. They're not sovereign individuals who try and live some sort of cypherpunk dream. They're big, very public entities. So let us see your public keys, lads. On energy consumption, I think the reason we see that coming back as an argument against Bitcoin is because it's probably the most valid argument against Bitcoin, because it does consume a lot of energy, and a lot of the energy which is consumed is heavy, has a heavy carbon footprint. However, it's just temporary. It's just it incentivizes green and renewable energy use, and the little rant I had before on Bitcoin's effect on renewables, and actually when you get larger transaction throughput, it's very efficient. It's much more efficient when you think of the social scalability of, say, a small country who wants to opt into some planetary economic system. They don't have to have all this infrastructure which they used to have, so you end up with that social scalability. So, but that's the reason. And you're right, Martin. It is something we should. I think Bitcoin is, we every now and then there'll be an article about, how it incentivizes renewables, and there's some mining operation in Canada making use of some dam or something. But there should be active lobby groups targeting miners who don't try and use renewables and doing all the real world stuff which industries do to try and show that they are trying to tackle that problem. Just because it'll just help keep the competition quiet. So yeah, I thought it was really interesting what Josh said before about correlation with the stock market. I think it just shows that there's a proportion of people buying and selling Bitcoin who are just traditional traders, and they're dipping in and out of uncertain markets, what they think to be uncertain markets. And Bitcoin is for them quite volatile and it feels uncertain. So it's not for them a hedge against the stock market as it is, for us lot, or a hedge against legacy finance. So, but yeah, if they're not saying one thing and doing the other, these big money managers and the Michael Saylor's not dumping his Bitcoin but saying that he's buying a lot more up, then with Bitcoin it's everything's kind of delayed. So this is why before, when you asked on price, I said, it's going to pump, because if he is buying the amount of Bitcoin he is buying, then it is going to have an effect on the Bitcoin market. And we will have an uptick next week, and there is definitely a hell of a lot more institutional buying and interest going on right now than there ever has been. You got Visa really investing heavily in researching Bitcoin and using Bitcoin. So yeah, it is just the beginning of something much larger, and this is all going to accelerate and exponentially grow the amount of big institutional investors. And just 5% of their portfolio, it's a small amount, but for the impact it would have on Bitcoin's price would be very large indeed if every large corporation or institution or financial fund did that.
It may be the best argument against Bitcoin, but it's also such an easy argument to make. It's really difficult to quantify the cost of the current monetary system. It's really easy to take the Bitcoin energy and multiply it by the number of miners and then multiply it again. And that's why I think they keep coming back to this. It's so easy to take a deep look into the Bitcoin numbers by multiplying years in ahead, which again, we all know chips and computers don't work like this. Revolutions don't work like this, the tech, and we gain a lot by switching to the Bitcoin system. It might even be greener because of the ability to use renewables and excess.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I agree with you completely, but if you talk to when you go to like Congress, Chaos Communication Congress, the Chaos Communication Computer Club in Germany and in Europe, their biggest reservation is always, it uses a lot of energy, and this is the argument against it. When I've spoken to computer professors, they've all said, but the amount of energy it consumes. So we need to. Michael Saylor had a really nice tweet actually on the impact that clean energy will have in the future and the impact clean money will have in the future. And Bitcoin is a clean money. It loses all that kind of stigma of control which fiat currencies have. I guess if we're an open source money, we can all opt into and have an impact on. So and he's right as well with clean energy. When we're no longer using these fossil fuels, and energy isn't a dirty word, and we're using a money which also has this sort of dirty stigma to it, then we'll be in a much better place in society. But yeah, no, for now, it's the first impression for those other people out there who look at Bitcoin. They see trading centric, news cycle. It consumes a lot of energy. I don't want to go near this stuff. It sounds horrible. And then, but once they get past that, for some people, that first impression has a lot of appeal, and it actually draws them in. But for quite a lot of people, it doesn't. But if they can get over that hurdle and then look at the actual technology behind Bitcoin, they're like, okay, wow, this is very impressive, powerful technology, and okay, it's consuming all these dirty fuel sources for now, but that's something which can be improved. So yeah, we do need to target it head on as an argument.
A dreadful conspiracy, and they freely open source their plans like some kind of intergalactic James Bond villain. Going back to what Martin was talking about again, the energies being used by the countries, They said that the energy FUD would be used against the corporations to try to stop them from buying Bitcoin. My question to you, is it too late? Dan Eve.
Is it too late for what, sorry?
Is it too late to keep the companies from buying Bitcoin by a
No.
FUD?
No. I think it's, if anything, it's kind of, there are always companies that are, that want to stick it to their government to a certain way. There's going to be people that kind of think, actually, morally, I believe in Bitcoin because the existing financial system is crap, and they will want to push their, probably private companies, maybe not public companies, obviously, because they might annoy shareholders if they're like that. But I don't think it's going to prevent people. At the end of the day, Bitcoin passed the $1 trillion marker, and it's like it's a serious asset. It's not something that was when it was millions or even billions or even just millions. It's now a serious asset that's it's global. Sorry, it's not ubiquitous. And the fact is that it can't be stopped. It's still the same principles that you'd have to turn like every miner off in order to stop Bitcoin. So it's not something that you can't cut the head off a multi-headed ninja snake. Like, it just doesn't happen, because as soon as you cut one head off, another head grows, and that's what Bitcoin does. You'd have to turn every machine off and stop, pull off all the power, and then you probably still have people writing it down on paper, still trying to, because you can work out Bitcoin, can't you? But no, I don't think it's going to stop many people. If anything, I think the news of hitting the $1 trillion marker and other companies coming forward is just going to give us maybe a bit of a slow release, depending on how Bitcoin performs over the next sort of coming months. But I do think people are going to start coming out of the Bitcoin closet from a company perspective. And maybe if it's not saying to the company going, we've bought on behalf of the company, but the CEO is saying, actually now it's 10% of my portfolio, and why wouldn't it be?
Josh Shigala, what if the government is like an Ayn Rand villain, and they punish Tesla by forcing them to pay carbon credits, and then forcing them to pay carbon credits retroactively?
Yeah, carbon credits, also a fascinating topic, invented by Enron. So that's a good start. And then they're just like fiat. They can print as many carbon credits as they want, and it's just this magical paper dust that they ask companies to pay for, to hold, and they can give it to their mates. And you're a heavy polluter. Yeah, you're in the industrial military complex. Here, have a couple of extra billion of them. It's a big scam. The whole carbon credits thing is a scam. No one wants to buy something you don't need or don't want.
Thought of something great. Carbon credits are like NFTs for pollution.
Yeah, yeah. It's also, I mean, in one way, it's a nice idea where you start trading pollution to bring down it's just, come on, Enron. We thought we left you in the grave.
Oh, they're back this week. Look at Texas and their own separate power grid. That had its roots in Enron too. Martin, it's your question. It's coming back to you. Will the corporations, will the governments use FUD of power against corporations?
I think they will do. I'm not sure if it will stop them. Corporations have to have this clean energy thing, commitments they have to, comply with. So it wouldn't surprise me if that's the thing they will try to use to limit corporate adoption. If corporations are clever enough, then they will ignore it and they will purchase Bitcoin anyway, because any cash reserves they have, any fiat reserves, it's useless. They're printing way too much of it. It's the corporation's duty to at least protect the corporation's interest, and they do that using Bitcoin. So in a way, yes, it will be a hurdle. That's why my opinion is that we have to actively fight this energy consumption FUD. And to be honest, it's not that much electricity. If you see what we are getting back, we're getting back a global financial system which uses a lot less energy than our existing fiat system, and as Ben said, in the future we'll be able to green it, and it will be powered by renewables, and then we have really, really clean energy. So I think corporations can think for themselves, and many will ignore it and will purchase Bitcoin anyway. So, but it will slow adoption. This is my opinion. It will probably slow adoption, corporate adoption, a little bit, and that's their target.
Ben Ark.
I mean, it's definitely had an impact on Tesla investors and people who are interested in Tesla as a company, because a lot of them are, obviously green, and then they buy into the FUD, the Bitcoin, because everyone wants an excuse if they're not into Bitcoin or have some understanding of Bitcoin. They want an excuse not to like it, don't they? And then they can cling on to that excuse, and they're like, yeah, that thing, oh yeah, bollocks, that it's going to crash to nothing because of the amount of energy it consumes. It's not sustainable. So yeah, we need to target the FUD head on, and just increase the transaction throughput. That's the best thing you can do. If you turn one Bitcoin transaction into essentially, 2 Bitcoin transactions by using some second layer or whatever, then it's twice as efficient, isn't it? So and then just keep doing that. So with the Lightning Network, if you open up a channel with somebody, you can send practically infinite amount of transactions. So we can send a lot of transactions using just one Bitcoin transaction on chain, carbon heavy footprint transaction. Taproot's going to help a lot. So I'm hoping that in fact that's going to be kind of an angle which is pushed in the media somewhat from Bitcoin, with Taproot activation and being able to a transaction to be able to contain all these different scripts and make it much more functional, and pad it out with more information, because that'd be great for targeting head on this environmental impact FUD. But yeah, I was quite surprised when Elon Musk actively bought Bitcoin because of that, because of the sorts of people who buy Teslas having an interest in climate change and whatnot.
It does kind of break Tesla's environmental message. A lot of people are struggling with the duality of that. But then the other side, making that $1 billion, or making how they made a year's worth of profit already, it just has that Elon Musk magic where he takes all of his PayPal money, invests it in SpaceX, and Tesla takes all these crazy risks, pulls it off, and pretty soon Bill Gates is saying he's the only one who can invest.
Does it make a profit and gets a lot of money from government? But okay.
I mean, the whole thesis of Tesla doing electric cars to save the planet is anyway ludicrous. I mean, it's good that we're heading towards electric. I love electric. I've got an electric car. I love it. But if you're going to be about green, you drive your old car to the ground and keep repairing your 1969 Beetle until it's dead, because the amount of energy it takes to pull the metal out of the ground, form the metal, make the whole thing work. The worst part of the environmental disaster that's happening right now is the constant, massive, despicable use of plastics that are constantly being pumped out. If you own a business, you get the box, it's wrapped in plastic. You get everything that's in it wrapped in plastic. You get the thing that's wrapped in plastic. It's a big babushka nightmare, basically. That's what I'm saying. And it's just on and on and on. That's where we should be fighting. This insistence on plastics. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Energy we should be using more of, and finding better versions of it.
We should just use old iPhones and old computers. Come on, Josh. Let me tell you one word about your future: plastics. But let's see. Let's move on to the next issue. I think they will use the FUD, but we talked about that a lot. Let's see. Next issue. And I was also going to say, everyone still has a chance to like the show.
Yeah,
I'm not going to say there's a competition between this show and Today in Bitcoin, but Today in Bitcoin gets about 50 to 70 likes. So if you guys really want to make something here out of the Friday show, you're going to have to beat that. You're going to have to get more. Yeah. And as far as Today in Bitcoin, they're going to have to beat you guys. So it's a back and forth liking battle, and it's all free. You can just like things.
Yeah, let's get 90 upwards.
Yeah, 90 seems like a good number. Yeah. But here we go. We're moving on to the last issue. Issue 4. Coinbase says the entire crypto market could be destabilized if Bitcoin's anonymous creator is ever revealed or sells their $30 billion stake. and they're willing to kill Satoshi Nakamoto to stop it from happening. It was part of the Coinbase reveal. They said that the entire market, their IPO included, could be destabilized if Satoshi Nakamoto ever comes back and dares to sell his, her, or their coins, even if they tried to sell them on Coinbase, the exchange, which is, I'm sure, what Brian would recommend. Other criminals, like the guys from Cryptsy, had a great time selling all of their coins on Coinbase, the exchange. So I'm sure this would work out for them too. Let's go, Martin, first. Should Coinbase, is Coinbase right? Could Satoshi Nakamoto destroy Bitcoin as we know it? And more importantly, should he be stopped?
I think it is a bit of like those Satoshi coins. They are hot because everybody is watching them, and I think once they start moving, it means that there is an entity that has access to all those coins. And market cap wise, well, yeah, it's like, if you could crash the market if you want to. And I think Satoshi, if he would still be around, would know that and would be wise enough not to move those coins. So I don't see it as a big risk, but this was for Coinbase's IPO filing, and they have to address all the risks that are potentially there. And I think it is a risk. I don't think it will completely crash the entire crypto market. I think most people will just switch to Doge or some other crap coin. But it would be an issue for Bitcoin, definitely.
I'm just surprised that Coinbase was willing to say publicly that they want Satoshi assassinated to prevent this from happening. I think that was just a really bold statement for them to make, and they're really going out on a limb there. Dan, Eve, your thoughts of Coinbase's shocking announcement that they want Satoshi dead and that he should stay dead?
Maybe they'd even put something on a prediction market. You don't know, Brian Armstrong. I think we were talking about that in the chat. That's an interesting site.
He does get paid $60 million a year, and they spend $1.75 million on his security. How much would they spend to stop Satoshi from coming back? In fact, if Satoshi could only qualify for the assassination market, fake his own death again, and collect on the money, he wouldn't even have to sell the original Bitcoins.
It sounds like they're going to have to beef up Brian Armstrong's security to stop him from like bursting out and like trying to stab Satoshi or something. It's obviously I think it's going to destabilize the market, but you've got the kind of other factor, which is there's what type it depending on what type of persons, if Satoshi's an absolute asshole, then maybe it would dump. And then, but if he's imagine he's just they're a really nice person, and everyone's like, oh, actually, I'll actually buy into a bit of this Bitcoin. Actually, I hated it before, but now forget the greenery FUD and whatever. I don't know. I think Satoshi's gone forever. It seems like I don't know, it's poetic, isn't it? Just to kind of throw the ball up in the air and then watch the world keep the ball up and all the passion behind it. And I don't know. It seems like, the sort of thing that you'd have in a movie if it were to be about invented crypto money, that the person would, that would be it. So I think it's kind of, I don't think he's coming back. Them coming back. And I think, if he does, got to keep Brian Armstrong away because he ain't happy.
Ben Ark, is Brian Armstrong secretly behind all the bad things that have happened to Craig Wright, attempting to disprove him as Satoshi, stealing the Tulip Trust coins from Mt. Gox, setting him up time and time again like the usual suspects, the coffee cup flipping in the air? It was Brian all along.
I've thought for a while that the one of the big issues which society is going to have to tackle in the future is Satoshi's funds. Like, what we're going to do with them? Because if it's Bitcoin is the backbone of future society, which I believe it will be, a lot of us believe it will be, then that's a hell of a lot of liquidity, which could really break the planetary, hopefully interplanetary money with. So we'll have to decide, and humanity, we won't probably just be all diehard Austrian economists, and we might vote to burn the funds. They haven't moved. and it's best for everybody if we just burn them, or perhaps we'll vote to put them in some sort of multi-sig wallet and then use it for, I don't know, something good, like world peace, fighting hunger, alleviating poverty on a planetary scale. But society, humanity will have to address what to do with these funds if they don't move on their own. To be honest, I almost want Satoshi to appear now to get it all out of the way, or not to appear, but for the funds to move and then slowly distribute and become more distributed through the system. Rather than later on, because the longer this kind is kicked down the road, the more kind of scary it gets. But I think Brian Armstrong has a very good point. It's potentially something which, if we all annoy Bill Gates enough, he might just come back on the scene and move those bitcoins and fuck our shit up. So, but yeah, it is scary. But we'll decide. We'll do something with them at some point, or we'll do nothing with them, but at least we'll have that dialogue of what we could possibly do with them, I suppose, in the future.
Josh Shigala, if the government agents monitoring Brian Armstrong stole millions of dollars from him and then offered him a chance to spend that same money on a hit against Satoshi Nakamoto, would Brian Armstrong hypothetically do the hit?
Well, Brian Armstrong hasn't got the name because he strong arms, Satoshi. That's the Brian Armstrong strong arm deal. But hang on a minute. Hello? No. Yeah. That's 2013. They want their headline back. Why? This is the same headline that comes out over and over again. Oh, if Satoshi comes up, oh, it's going to dump on the market. Oh, it's I don't know. We've probably covered that topic so many times. What the hell? Can't these people come up with an original headline or an original concept, some sort of original FUD? The original FUD. I think that's the new in the Bible. It's not original sin. Bitcoin comes with original FUD. And when you start to get into it, you just you have to deal with that. But look, if Satoshi's coins moved, you know how good that day would be. It would be the best day ever. I would literally be ready to just buy as much as I can at that moment, because it's just going to be like back up. And who's to say that that's not priced into the market already? Everyone's like, oh, that's not priced into the market. Of course it is. We all know it's sitting there. We all know the threat of Satoshi's coins coming out. This isn't some new article. Like I said, in 2013, even earlier, people have been talking about this. So, no, just stop it. Just stop it.
This is FUD classic. We want new FUD. Yeah. We want FUD crystal clear. Yeah. We want options. But let's ask Ben's question. It's Ben's idea. Two-part question. First of all, will they eventually cut off the Satoshi funds? And what would you do if you could spend $30 billion? Crypto Raptor.
Wow. I don't know. It's a good question, because if the Bitcoin community is all about scarcity, then surely what's best for the for everything than those tokens just to stay there and never move, and then it becomes even more scarce. So I think I don't know. And would the miners ever go for it? I mean, it would have to be a deal that that gets voted on, and so it would have to be mind-blowingly good to kind of just divvy out 1 million Bitcoin. Maybe that would only happen if all miners were controlled by some sort of the government to take it over in some way, and then they were like, right, we're gonna 51% attack it or something crazy. But no, I think I'd like to airdrop it. Actually, if I could, I'd airdrop it. I think of the best airdrop ever to all the people that don't have Bitcoin, so that then they can stop moaning about the bloody green issue. That isn't that much of an issue. It's purely, I think was it Ben said it, the fact that they don't have it, they've got to find something to be pissed off about. There's and the green thing's just a good thing for people to be like, well, I don't have Bitcoin. It's good anyway, because I wouldn't want to be on something that use loads of energy. But then if you gave them a little, just for a little bit, then they'd be like, what's going up? I don't give a shit about trees. Give me the Bitcoin. So yeah, airdrop 30 billion.
Airdrop for everybody. Ben Ark, will they make the miners an offer they can't refuse?
I think we may all just be creating hot air here. I'm sure I heard like one of the core devs saying that actually at some point we're going to have to make those coins unspendable, just because there needs to be a fix in Bitcoin which would render those coins unspendable because of the address format or something. I swear I have to remember where that interview was or article was, but I remember thinking, oh, thank God, that decision would be out of our hands. It's just some upgrade we'd have to apply to Bitcoin, and anyone who's got funds in those addresses from that period, they have to just move them into a new address. So, but I can't remember for the life of me who it was. I think it was the. Oh, I'll have to look. It's one of the core devs, one of the crypto core devs who said it. I'm sorry, in an interview. So I'll have to look that up. So we may all just be speaking hot air. This may already be resolved as an issue. I just think it's for future society to have to fiddle through. Like, yes, it's classic FUD and it's always been there, but a bit like the green argument, the carbon footprint argument, is there for a reason, because it's an argument against Bitcoin, and it is a problem that there's all this money and Bitcoin which is just sat there and could dump on Bitcoin, but maybe not now, but in the future, if our entire human society is based on Bitcoin, that person would just become ruler of the world with the incredible amount of wealth they have.
They'd become like Bill and Ted, like wild stallions. They'd be really important to our society.
Yeah, they'd be super important. Yeah. So
but the thing is, like, it's not like Satoshi could just dump all of that on one day. First of all, why would he, she, they just do it in one big go? Because it's like, well, we don't need they've held on this long. It's not like.
But that's, I mean, they wouldn't do it because it doesn't make game theoretical sense. Isn't like a good argument, because if they suddenly turned up and started spending those coins in the first place, they're not, Bill's lost his mind.
Well, but they've played the game so well so far. Why would they just,
This is like, I haven't spent a single Satoshi, and all of a sudden I'm just going to grab the whole lot and just go onto one exchange. And if they did, it'd be like, oh, sweet, that weird order I put down at 1 cent just for shits and giggles got swallowed up.
I hope that exchange would be Coinbase, because I'm sure Brian Armstrong would welcome that kind of coin.
Yeah. Exactly.
All it takes is an argument with the partner and a few bottles of wine, and then Satoshi might dump the coins. So anything can happen.
Been there, have you?
Josh Shigala, should we cut off the Satoshi coins? Does one man or woman or group of men and women or something else have too much power?
No, absolutely not. What the hell? Just leave Satoshi alone.
All right. Let's see. Do we get to Martin? Did you answer on the Satoshi coins?
I think they should be just left alone. I think if we start burning them, it means that we shouldn't touch anyone's coins. If we force people to upgrade to a new address format, it would create very interesting data. I mean, it would create clusters that we'll be able to analyze, and it's just creepy. And to be honest, if I have $30 billion, I'd probably spend it on yachts, blackjack, and hookers. Just party, and party. Everyone's invited.
Party every night and all of the day, something like that. And it sounds like what Andreas said. If your money can't buy hookers and blow, what good is your money? But no, what I would spend the $30 billion on, since I get a chance to spend it here, is I'm going to expand on my idea of a Smithsonian museum in every single state.
I knew it.
In every state, but I want to expand it, Martin. I've got more. That TV show, Antique Archaeology, where the guys drive around in a bus and they buy old American stuff and they dig out cars and stuff. I have total employment for all Americans and all people of the world as we set up more museum opportunities. You can bring in this stuff and we'll pay you. We'll pay you to clean it up. We'll pay you to find it. We'll pay you to dig it up. It's environmentalism too, because we're going to dig up all the metal and all the garbage and we're going to recycle it. We're going to put it in our museums. You can come see it. The stuff that's left over, we'll make art out of it. $3 billion, all we need.
This Smithsonian thing is coming back every single time. It might be 3 episodes without it, but then again, you want to start the Smithsonian in every state.
Imagine a city full of free museums copying a city full of free museums in France called Paris. And imagine if we had more cities like that closer to people. You could go there for education as well. We'd have classes. You could learn about this old junk. And like Josh said, the 79 Beetle and the old television. And somebody made an old television work. Oh, this is a great, news story coming out of the new Smithsonian institutions, which we could build easily. With $30 billion, we could also build a Smithsonian on the moon, and we could build one on Mars, and we just have museums everywhere. And then we could get back to arguing over whether the British Museum should give back the Greek items and everything else. So
spending it on blackjack and hookers, I think, is the best option there.
Blackjack, hookers, and new T-shirt and mugs at the World Crypto Network shop at shop.worldcryptonetwork.com. You can get the brand new HAL Finney shirt and mug dedicated to our hero, Hal Finney. Also, check out Trezors Don't Float version 2.0. Both designs are by Philippe. Check out Philippe on Twitter at PHNEEP. That spells Philippe. We're also continuing to accept donations to my new laptop fundraiser as the price of Bitcoin continues to go the wrong direction, wrecking my fundraiser. You can donate with on-chain Bitcoin here or with the Lightning Network using Tallycoin. All you have to do is create an invoice. I'll create an invoice right here for $2. Tallycoin creates the invoice. I scan it with my wallet of Satoshi. It says 4,000 sats. That's cheap. Green. And it's sent. That's all it takes. Boom, right there. You can use the Lightning Network to donate Satoshis to the fundraiser. But we're running out of time. We've still got a chance for predictions or story of the week. Martin, are you ready with a prediction or a story of the week? Now you're muted.
Sorry, was it these audio dropped?
Prediction or story of the week. Famous stalling presentation there. You just say, "Oh, I can't hear you," because you really need more time to think.
No. I think the prediction price will continue to be the same, but hopefully it will go up. But I don't have any new stories this week. Sorry.
One Bitcoin is still one Bitcoin. Dan Eve, the Crypto Raptor.
I don't have a prediction because my last one was terrible, and I think the 65k is already in pretty deep. So I'll stick with that. But for now, so my story of the week is that my awesome merch turned up. So got my WCN t-shirt and my WCN mug as well. Pretty funky if you can see it. There you go. Also good in invisible color as well, as you can see. Nice, very nice and invisible. Limited edition, this version, and it can go from invisible to non-invisible. This functionality isn't with every mug, but by the mug, it's brilliant. And that's my story of the week, the invisible mug.
One mug to bind them, one mug to rule them all. Let's go to Ben Ark, prediction or story of the week.
Can't find that article, that interview with that core developer. I'm gonna have to dig that out. It was I think it was one of the hack sprints, and it was the German guy, the young guy, Josh, the young guy who does the crypto stuff, the Schnorr stuff in Berlin.
Nelly?
Yeah, I think it might be him. Yeah. I swear he had. I'll have to dig this interview out now because I'll be able to find it, I'm sure. But I swear he said that at some point in the future there'll be a reason that those coins will just be made unspendable, and it's an upgrade which has to happen. But I'll have to dig it out somehow. Anyway, so that's got nothing to do with it. But prediction is some free sats. Here we go. Let's have a bit of a. Here we go. There's an Elon URL there. Can you see that? So get your Lightning, Bitcoin Lightning wallets out, and then milk that Elon URL. It's hosted on Elon Bits, which is a project which I work on. But yeah, you can pull out those sats. I think there's 9 500 sat scores to be had on that Elon URL. So get them Lightning wallets out. The other one is Nosta's coming along. I haven't done much work to it, but protocol wise, there was an upgrade to the protocol and the way in which, quite a big upgrade to the Nostar protocol, but all my stuff just kind of looks the same. We can still, like, post on our Nostar Twitter. Ooh, hello world. Post on our Nostar Twitter. So that's just tinkering along nicely. I haven't added any functionality to the client, the Twitter client myself, but the actual protocol's been upgraded. So I'm looking forward to working on that next week. So that's pretty much it. Just the Nostar protocol's been upgraded, which is cool. And here's some free sats. Grab them while you can. Boom. You're muted, Thomas.
2 mute buttons is too many. Very fun, Ben. I grabbed some of those lightning sats. That was fun. You got to be quick on it. Josh Shigala, story of the week or prediction? Go ahead.
Yeah. So I'll just share my screen here. On Vaultoro, we've got a new section called Learn, and we have hundreds and hundreds of articles that we've written over the years that we've actually organized into beautiful articles all about what is called dollar cost averaging, all sorts of things, how to make money with crypto, of course, the definitive guide to understanding blockchain, proof of work versus proof of stake, all of this stuff. What is a bull market? Stuff for noobs. There's beginner, intermediary, and advanced. So, if you see the 3 dots for advanced, then that article's for you, and you can go and have a look and check out all that stuff. And it's just a really great resource. So I just wanted to share that. It's under the Learn tab on Vaultoro. So yeah, that's my news
That's really cool
of the week.
Very cool. Looks good. Takes a lot to do that organization. I know and it makes it much more useful though.
Yeah. I mean, it's great. You can really search all the articles. You can filter them down into, searching your DeFi. You can search all your DeFi articles. That's great.
Thomas, I forgot to mention, because the audio dropped earlier on and I was a bit confused, but I do have a story of the week. All our ATMs have like screensavers, which are like video screensavers. When the machine is not used, it turns into this video. And we'll be launching a competition. It's to help, crypto artists launch their brand or their artwork onto the ATM. So it will be an ongoing thing. General Bytes will do it, and then we'll include the crypto artwork into the ATM software, so that especially newer operators, they can select the artwork and they can play something cool if the machine is not in use. And if they, for example, want to customize the video for their own brand, then they can contact the artist, and the artist can actually make some money and get some money out of the crypto scene this way. So sorry, it's just the audio dropped and I was like, oh, startled a bit. And so yeah, that was my news. Yeah.
Well, that sounds very cool. What I want to see is that Bitcoin wizard from Reddit. See him doing stuff on an ATM screen. That'd be super fun. And he's probably open source or free or whatever. So maybe somebody could use that idea or make a version of it. So
didn't they nail the meme there? Like, why did they go to the laser eyes? The magic internet money is the best and only meme we actually need.
Oh, the Nyan cat.
Wizards.
I want to have a Nyan cat flying. Remember the old meme? That has to be on the screen.
Oh yeah. But use a Bitcoin and have the things flying behind it. Yeah.
The Bitcoin and Friends is cool too. There's plenty of artists, and Bitco is cool. So there's so many artists, I think, that could benefit from a little bit extra exposure. And by doing this, they can, get their exposure on 6,000 ATMs globally. And I think that will be nice. And it's fun. I think it's good fun.
That's cool.
Just don't let Bill Gates find out that it costs energy to run those little screens, because he's going to come after you.
It will consume a lot of energy.
Going to put a hit on you.
As much,
but it's not wasted energy.
Background, yes, as much as a PlayStation. Whoa.
When you think about it, it's weird, the carbon credits. Like, if you had to boil it down to just like pouring, if you were getting credits for pouring oil into the ocean, You're like, okay, so I'm pouring loads of oil into the ocean, but I'm paying for other people, paying money so that so that my offsets the oil that I'm pouring into the ocean. Why don't you just stop pouring oil into the ocean? Sell through it 2 out of 3 of the private jets. Do the things that matter. Stop eating a restaurant where your cow is just the only cow in the field, rather than it run a bit more efficiently. Cow fielding or whatever.
I want to make sure that I don't cheat on my wife. So I'm going to pay other people that don't cheat on their wives so that I can. I'll just trade that out. And that'll be fine.
And somewhere somebody gets a Ferrari. as long as it all works out in the end, I'm fine with it. I think it's going to be good. But I think we're going to head towards the end of the show. So there's still a chance you guys can give us a thumbs up, and you can also do that subscribe thing, like Josh was saying. About 30% of the people out there are brand new, and they're like, I've never seen this before. What if it goes away and never comes back? The way to fix that is to subscribe. And I agree, Josh, it's a complicated system that YouTube's built. You have to hit the bell for notifications. You have to allow YouTube to notify you. Sometimes even your browser will then block those notifications. And when they send you the emails, if you don't click on every single email, which I know everyone watches every single video all of the time, if you don't do that, they stop sending you the notification. So YouTube is very much actively working against people that make content on their platform.
Yeah, and they've built it in a way that it helps YouTube. They've realized that the more you feed the viewer other stuff, the more they stay. So because you're just getting bombarded with new stuff. So if you really want to see content, make sure you hit the bell, because YouTube will just, they don't want creators to get more likes. That's not their goal. Their goal is to keep the viewer looking at that thing, and so they can manipulate the hell out of your brain.
And they'll make you watch more Mr. Beast videos.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, or videos with a dude with 64,000 million balls on a lake. I bet you've all seen that.
It's a good channel, though.
Good video.
Good channel.
That thumbnail. Yeah, Veritasium.
It's good stuff. Well, we're working on the thumbnails too. I got some neon green writing and stuff. I think it's going to be all around. But thanks again to everybody for watching. We're going to go ahead and head towards the end of the show. We want to do not the screen share. We want to do this one. Here we go. Until next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.